Are we allowed to talk about your jouissance in the workplace piece? Because it seems pretty relevant right here.
I mean, I don't know, because I'm reworking it. And so look, it's not so much the piece, it's just the idea that yes, in a job, it doesn't matter what job, if a workplace has any form of functionality whatsoever, there's ways in which the workers violate the explicit rules of the workplace, but they violate them in such a way as to continue to reproduce the workplace.
Right.
They don't actually undermine it. They keep it going. And the thing is, if you deprive workers of whatever form of enjoyment they get out of their day, you make things function worse and worse. So you got to allow people to have, and here's the thing, right? Whatever form of enjoyment takes hold in a workplace, it's important to note the capitalists ain't doing that. Like
Right.
all of this occurs outside of the view of the capitalists. So this is something workers spontaneously do among themselves. And again, it maintains a sense of freedom. They're sitting there going, haha,
Right.
see, I'm not just completely locked in to the fucking rules this place imposes on me. I'll do this and I'll do that, and we'll do all, and in transgressing, you're sitting there going, see, I'm free. I'm maintaining a distance
Right.
from the official decrees of this place. But that's where the enjoyment itself is ideological, because but this sense of freedom actually just is what enables this place to keep reopening every day. Like, that's where our enjoyment in our workspaces actually is ideological.
The reason I refer to the piece is just because it's on my mind, because I just read it pretty recently and I'm stoked about it. But basically, you are developing a Žižekian theory of something that a lot of people don't realize when they are thinking about building working class power and the problems with like for instance, a person who goes into a workplace and is from outside of this workplace and just wants to organize the workers, but brings with them their own kinds of ethical sensibilities that they then start forcing down the throats of these workers, it's not going to work.
Yeah, and here's the thing, right? Let's make it more specific. If you're a professional, like if you the PMCs, right, the professional managerial class, in those terms, right? Say someone like that goes into a blue collar workspace like the one I work in,
right?
They're not going to get anywhere with anybody I work with, and it's not racial, it's not gender based. I have, there's Black people who work at my job. There's gay people, and the fact that they are your blue collar industrial type of worker, they have an edge to them. I don't care their race, their sexual orientation, any of that, and they all of them. I don't care if they're Republicans or Democrats. They hate the PC thing. Like they all of them.
Yeah, they're
right. And so if somebody walked in there and try to impose what we think, SJW or politically correct or woke or any of that, all of them, I don't care if they're gay, Black, they all reject it.
Yeah, no, it's everybody's punchline. It's the butt of every joke. That's
the point thing, right? Like I see Trump supporters sitting there with people who voted for Biden, some who like Bernie. I see them all sit there, and they all together will joke about woke stuff, right? It's a big joke with all of them. And so it's funny to sit there and see this unfold, and then you try to imagine, well, what would it be for like one of these like liberal leftist professional managerial types to come in and try to organize? It would never work.
Yeah, it's
not all
happen. Yeah.
And it's not, and this is where you see it is a class thing. It's not a racial thing. It's not a gender thing. This is a class thing. And so,
yeah, the form of enjoyment that unifies everybody is offending these particular people, the people who earned A's, through school, and now lord it over them at, making these outrageous salaries.
Well, that's
right?
the thing, right? Like,
It's like, no, we get our enjoyment from offending you.
Exactly. Like, that's the thing. All of them, you as a group of workers, would all sit there, and they would the mindset would be, we make it where you can go take a shit in public. Like, we're in the distribution business. We deliver toilet paper and paper towels and shit like that, right? Like, we're the reason you can take a shit at your university, and then you judge us for being obscene or politically incorrect or whatever. And those type of workers, they enjoy in a different way. And if somebody was to come in and try to be an activist or organizer or whatever, there's such a clash of enjoyment, because the organizer is going to, trust me, the workers are going to detect real quick that this person places himself above the workers and thinks that they have like a greater insight into morality and ethics and everything. And there is a sense in which there's enjoyment at the workers' expense. So the workers, I'm not saying it's even right, but the workers are going to end up enjoying at this person's expense. And so I'm just saying, to get tapped into a group, whether it's right or wrong, like, you have to accept groups, and I don't care where they are, groups have dark sides to them, is the point. And this is a Baudrillardian point, and he makes it about terrorism. He to paraphrase, he says, look, the only thing worse, again, paraphrase, the only thing worse than living in a society where there's terrorism is living in a society where there is none. And his whole point is, a society would have to be so authoritarian and terroristic itself to be able to make terrorism absolutely impossible.
Right.
That you wouldn't want to live in that society. So the idea to have a group that absolutely has no obscene form of enjoyment would actually be the most obscene form of enjoyment. Because what you would have to do to have a social order where no one could have any sort of inherent transgression would be so micromanaged and so strict that it would be libidinal in and of itself in how it would maintain order. And so
libidinal in and of itself, libidinal in and of itself, so as to maintain order. I was
almost like
I was
the
oh shit. Well, first of all, I'm going to want you to just expand on that for a second, because I was like, well, I think I know what you're talking about. But then I was like, well, shit, if I am thinking that, then a lot of people probably aren't getting it at all. So we'll have to talk about that. But it's windy out here. Like my tiny house is shaking right now. And so
I can't hear it. It's not coming through.
All right. Well, things are banging around. And all I'm saying is that the internet...
You guys have tornadoes out there?
No, surprisingly, because we have crazy wind. But
I live in Tornado Alley.
Oh, you do? Have you seen tornadoes?
No, it's weird too.
You've never seen one?
Years, I think we've had any tornadoes, and growing up, this was always tornado season. They were like clockwork, and it probably climate change. I don't know how somebody would explain it, but we haven't seen tornadoes like we used to. But which is scary, because when one shows up, it'll probably be a world record.
Well, you just make sure to catch it on. You do a live stream. I want to see it.
I'm out of storage on my phone. You know this. You don't get any footage.
Maybe I'll see this. Maybe I'll see a tornado when I deliver this computer to you.
Oh, there's that.
So really quick, I wanted to do, before we get back into things. Yeah. So if the internet crashes, I'm sorry, everybody, and I miss you. Goodbye. But it could happen at any point. But we'll just have to just keep going like it won't happen. But before we get back into everything, I wanted to let everyone know that this fundraiser for Michael's computer is, well, it's still going on, and it's going really well. And I really wanted to say thank you to everybody who's donated so far. And I'm looking for my mouse. Hold on.
A huge thank you.
on my computer here. Yeah. So we've raised for Michael's computer $746.11.
Woohoo!
Right? Amazing. And someone with first name David donated twice, and it added up to $400. So thank you, David.
Thank you so much.
Also, wow. Marilyn for the 150. You know, the interesting thing, the crazy thing about the $746.11 for your computer, is that it came from such a small number of people. It's like 8 people. Yeah, so amazing. Thank you, everybody. And I say it comes from 8 people, but one of those people donated $1.11. So really, it came from 7 people. Yeah. So thank you, everybody. And I'll drop links in the chat here in a little bit, so that anybody else who wants to donate here. Basically, our buddy Chris is building Michael this epic computer, and then I'm gonna take it to him, in Raytown, Missouri, and maybe Ann will be, maybe Ann gets to go too. Well, that's the goal, but we'll see what happens, because basically we just have to.
I told you on the phone the other day. I'm like, no, Ann's vegan ass ain't welcome here.
Yeah, no, Kansas City's not going to put up with.
Oh, I love you, Ann. I'm just vegans. Joking.
Speaking of, Ann is in the chat, and is currently catching up. So she's not live. Oh, hey, Ann. She's not caught up live yet, but she's catching up because, she was a little late to the stream because she had a bunch of stuff going on. Look, a lot of people are still just getting in, so welcome. Take your time. We're not in a hurry.
I know it's not funny when you explain jokes, but just for context, the reason I said that the joke about Ann being a vegan, I live in Kansas City, which is the barbecue capital of the world. So,
right.
There you go.
And let's be honest, when I'm there, we're going to be going and getting a bunch of barbecue, so.
Well, yeah, it's like one day we got Arthur Bryant's, next day Gates, next day Jack Stack, then right. Joe's, then we can go Q39, we can go to LC's.
Weird. I felt full for like a couple of weeks after that.
Especially me, like Arthur Bryant's. I've told you, Arthur Bryant's is my favorite by far. But Gates is a close second when Gates is good. But no, Arthur Bryant's, for those who don't know, Arthur Bryant's is arguably the greatest barbecue restaurant in the world. I certainly think it is. But wow. If you go there and you get food to go, they just wrap up food in paper. And
a ton of it.
Well, it's I don't even know the term for that specific type of paper. But
it's kind of like a wax paper or something.
Yeah, they take a huge handful of fries and huge handful of meat and bread, and they just throw it all together and wrap it up. And Dave got to experience an Arthur Bryant deal a couple of years ago.
Yeah, we were talking about how the jouissance of barbecue. We'll have to get into that if we do this stream on the phallus.
One day we might just do a whole thing on food, because yeah. I mean, it is, especially Americans. I mean, I don't want to act like we have a monopoly on the enjoyment of food. Of course we don't. No. But there is something that sticks out, especially nowadays, about how Americans enjoy or get jouissance through food, and we're talking about.
Yeah. So, all right.
Like that's the whole thing in New York, right? When New York was talking about, I don't know if they ever did or not. I don't think they did. But when they were talking about putting limits on how much pop or soda, depending on what part of the country you're from, they were talking about putting limits.
Wait. Which do you say?
We say pop.
You say pop?
Yeah.
All right.
Soda sounds weird to me.
Yeah, we say soda. I grew up in a family that said pop, but I acclimated to a culture that said soda. I definitely never got into that Midwestern soda pop shit. Saying soda pop? No. But
no, so I mean, that's the whole thing, right? You're not limiting their beverage. You're limiting their jouissance. And pop is a huge source of jouissance for Americans. So is fast food. But the point is, oh, well, it's bad for them. Yeah, that's where they like it. That's right. What death drive is. Like, and this whole, like, there's almost something classist about, oh, look at them with their obscene enjoyment and pop and McDonald's and shit. Yeah, well, you know what? If motherfuckers could afford to eat like Hollywood celebrities, some of them might. But
Right.
when you're broke and your life sucks, oftentimes the shitty food you eat is a source of enjoyment. Even though it's bad for you, it doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah, if you can go into Whole Foods and just load up one of those hot plates that's going to cost you $20 for lunch, without really blinking an eyelash about it, then your experience is well, I don't want to fucking hear about it, right? Like,
well, I don't live as good as I used to. You know this. Okay, I used to eat better, but now that I can't do that, when I hear someone like Bill Maher try to lecture working class people about their shitty diets and them being fat and all this shit, like, shut the fuck up, Bill Maher. Like, it's easy for you to be on your fucking high horse doing a new rules about Americans eating poorly.
Did he do this?
Fucking eat anything you want, whenever you want. You have a personal chef. Like, shut the fuck up.
He did that, huh?
Oh, he's done it many times. Many times I've seen him do that shit where, like, Americans need to just be more responsible with their food, with the food they eat, and they wouldn't put so much pressure on the healthcare system for being fat. Like, that's where I'm like, shut the fuck up. Like,
yeah.
Again, that's where you're so unplugged from any type of Marxist analysis or anything. Like, or I'm sorry, people, I've told you many times, what makes us human is that we want to enjoy. Any talk of just doing what's in our interest, which in Lacanian terms is pursuing pleasure, which I know is confusing because we're talking about enjoyment, then we start talking about pleasure, and colloquially speaking, they're the exact same thing. In everyday usage, pleasure and enjoyment are synonyms. So we have to realize there's a sharp distinction between enjoyment and pleasure when we're talking in a Freudian Lacanian context or Žižekian context. And pleasure has to do with doing what's in your rational self-interest, pursuing rational goals, maintaining your health, doing what's best for you in the long term, maintaining your stability, ensuring your personal and social security, all this kind of stuff, right? Jouissance is the opposite. It wants to burn all that shit up. It wants to enjoy in the moment. But it also repeat this form of enjoyment. But these two things are part of what it is to be human. And to act like human beings should just restrict themselves to some sort of homeostatic lifestyle that's all about balance and equilibrium. Sorry, humans want their excess. But at the same time, if all they have is excess, then, that's catastrophe too. And so human beings are strung between these two tendencies, death drive and pleasure principle. And when you bring class into it, people want their forms of excess. They want something that they gain jouissance from. When you're broke, fast food or smoking cigarettes or whatever can be a form of enjoyment, and that actually helps you get through your day, even though it causes you problems at the same time.
Right.
So that's what death drive is. It's like death drive is the enjoyment you get from self-sabotaging yourself. But it's easy for rich people to speak from like the position of pleasure where you need to behave reasonably and take greater personal responsibility and eat healthier meals and make better choices. Go fuck yourself. Now I'm going to fucking supersize this shit. Fuck you.
Right.
Like, I'm just saying, that's where these fucking professional moral guides think like, oh, they're so distant from what the average person's going through that, and then they want to give the average person shit because they said fuck it and they want to eat chicken tender or chicken McNuggets or whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, so fuck you, Bill Maher.
Yeah, that's right. It's like, you fucking liberal elite cocksucker. Fuck you. I was to go have a fucking.
I was gonna say, like, part of
a blizzard now. Like,
I want us to really drive home for me. Well, this has been kind of a big realization. Thinking about the way that jouissance and drive factor into something like this, because it's not just that someone like Bill Maher has more money. It's that he's gotten to experience things, different kinds of things, and so he's gotten to in his development, in the development of his subjectivity, he's gotten to experience a broader array of opportunities and options for ways that his drive might take hold and that he might develop in a way that where he doesn't need to do those things to get the same kind of payoff.
His enjoyment can come from, I don't know, fucking models. He's known to date models, I guess. So, and I'm not blaming him for that. Hey, knock yourself out. Great.
Well, power to you, yeah.
That's the whole point. And you almost could get a kind of like a morality of enjoyment from Christ's words, like, fuck, judge yourself before you judge somebody else, right? Like that kind of ethics of, if we don't be so quick to judge somebody else's jouissance. What's your jouissance?
Yeah, exactly.
And what's the biblical line? But take the mote from your own eye. I'm drawing a blank on the scripture.
Yeah, don't worry about the sliver in your brother's eye when you've got a log in your own eye, basically.
There you go, right?
Yeah.
Well, you do that, but apply it as jouissance.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that when one person sees other people going after somebody's form of jouissance, it's like, you'd come for mine too. You're not coming for mine right now, but you would. You just
that create the distrust because
you don't have an ability to mind your own business or live and let live.
Now look, okay, here's the other thing, right? There are forms of jouissance we just have to oppose. So one example Žižek gives is the kind of racial violence that was part of the organization of a society where the Ku Klux Klan got to run things. Like, nah, there comes a point, fuck your enjoyment. You don't get to do that to people. The end. And
right.
Absolutely. Like there are the Nazis' form of enjoyment. No, fuck your jouissance. You don't get to have it. But
yeah,
just because there are these incredibly extreme forms of oppressive, sadistic forms of jouissance, we see those and then we can have some default like, oh, all of that needs to go. And the point is, those are extreme examples and jouissance can always lead to those incredibly destructive outcomes, but it's always going to be with us. And so it's not an idea of just getting rid of these obscene forms of jouissance. The idea is to have better forms of it. And so this is why death drive to me is such an important concept. It makes it where you go, look, utopia is not going to happen. Human beings have this inherent death drive built into them. They enjoy their own self-sabotage. They enjoy breaking apart the social order, etc. But they also have this other tendency that wants stability and pleasure and equilibrium. And so the point is that there are forms of jouissance that we can't tolerate, but we also have to accept that jouissance is going to be with us. And to try to eradicate it entirely is itself a form of oppression. Like it's a way to just drive us insane. Like we have to be able to have some forms of jouissance, some forms of excess, self-destruction, to be able to reproduce ourselves each day.
Right. And if the utopian planner who says, well, I think it could be otherwise, wants to actually make a better world, then you have to think, okay, so be strategic, pick your battles. Don't take away everybody's opportunities to enjoy. Otherwise, there's not going to be that inherent transgression in the system that allows the system to function. Right. So you're trying to set up a system that's inherently impossible. Now, a person could also say, well, you've just or Žižek, because you're kind of you're presenting the Žižekian position here, but you're speaking.
Well, I'll just own it. I own it. I agree with him on this stuff.
Okay. So one could say you've naturalized a conservative argument from sin nature. where it goes, well, socialism or communism looks good on paper, but the fact is, people say they want one thing and they do another, and they're just because they're fallen. And
yeah, but I don't think. Even Žižek explicitly links Paul's whole thing about sin and the law, and like sin came when the law came, and all this kind of stuff from, I believe it's the book of Romans. Žižek does this in ticklish subject, and I don't know. I just don't have a problem with okay, to stand back for a second. If anything is naturalized, it's the ontologies of dualism, or the ontologies of substance. What psychoanalysis is doing is saying that we are split internally. We are split inside of ourselves. And it's not that I am what I am independently from everything else, and then I happen to find something that I end up in having a conflict with. That's dualism. But when you take the dialectical approach or the psychoanalytic approach, you're arguing for an ontology, which is an ontology of things being at odds with themselves. Like, this is why Deleuze and Guattari don't like Hegel. Deleuze and Guattari, their whole thing with being against negation, you want to go, well, what's the big deal? Hegel and Žižek, they talk about negation. Deleuze and Guattari talk about difference. Well, isn't a difference just the negation of one thing juxtaposed to the other? It's far different when it comes to ontology, because the whole thing about Hegelian negation, or as McGowan would rather call it, contradiction, is that a thing is split within itself, right? Whereas for Deleuze and Guattari, they're not going to think of things as internally split, internally at odds with themselves, which is to say things having a negative relationship to themselves. Sure, things can go bad, but for Deleuze and Guattari, it's like a bad encounter. Like, a thing is in the process of becoming, and then it encounters something that stifles it or gets in its way. But it itself is not stifling or getting in its own way. And so when Deleuze and Guattari, when Deleuze says stuff about Hegel on negation or negativity, there is a really big ontological difference here. And I don't know. I find myself seeing things when I watch States of Affairs. I see how things are internally split. So, again, this is getting off track, but I want to get back to the main point of the lecture here. But
in an attempt to bring in new people to the world of philosophy and theory while building on relationships already established, we are doing a countrywide tour of the United States this fall.
What's up, guys? It's Ann and Dave.
Are we coming to a city or town near you? Do you think there is a venue or audience in your local region that would be interested in a lecture or facilitated discussion about existentialism, critiques of therapism, PMC ideology, self-help, introduction to philosophy, or the Timenergy critique of any of those things? This speaking and discussion facilitation tour will include the Pacific Northwest in mid-August, the Kansas City, Missouri area late August or early September, Philadelphia at the beginning of October, and really we're going to be all over the area there, hopefully, so get in contact with us if you think that we should come visit your state. Phoenix, Arizona, mid-October, and SoCal, especially San Diego, late October. I say especially San Diego because we already have our guide for the San Diego region. What's the difference between a host, a guide, and a volunteer, you ask? Well, thanks for asking, actually. The volunteer role is for people who want to put up posters or in other ways promote the events that will be occurring in their town or city, whereas the host might have a guest bedroom, guest house, or a place that we can park our van so that we can sleep in our van. We need to know if you would have like bathroom facilities or anything like that, and so the form on the website is where you can tell us what you have to offer. Guiding, on the other hand, though, people who love to guide take a lot of pride in their local knowledge. A good example of that would be Michael Downs when I visited him in Raytown, Missouri, and he took me into Kansas City and we had barbecue, and he took me to the mall and to all these other landmark places from his life growing up there. But a more recent example would be my friend Michael in Poland, who took us around Katowice, Poland, and basically gives a historical and sociological analysis of everything, and it was amazing. It was one of the coolest things we've ever experienced, and it made us realize some people just want to provide the space and privacy, whereas other people want to take you out and show you around. And so if you're interested in being a volunteer, host, or guide, we have a special form for that. So please fill out your information and get in contact with us as soon as possible so we can fit you into the schedule, because we'll love to meet you, touch base with the local community. And if you don't think anyone else in your area is interested in the things that you're interested in, if you don't think anyone else is into this stuff, well, we might be able to surprise you.
When I saw that poster, Bold Grill Art in Boise, fucking Idaho, are you kidding me? It was virtually an answer to an unspoken prayer, It really was. And I just couldn't believe that somebody was interested in the things that I was interested in, that I had been interested in for years and had kind of given up on in futility. I'd labored in solitude for so long. I had no one to talk to about it, no one to bounce ideas off.
This tour is going to bring together a lot of people who want to be based in Texas with the people they're in conversation with. And yeah, I think it's going to be a fantastic year. The only other thing that I want to say is that Michael Downs' first book is going to be published by Theory Underground really soon here. I've got another book coming out really soon here. These books will be spread throughout the United States on this tour. So I'm hoping to be able to do some actual book launch events at various bookstores. Outside of that, I guess the last thing that I would say is that Michael Downs is gearing up to teach For They Know Not What They Do by Slavoj Žižek. We're putting out all these introduction videos and other interviews related to the topic of Hegel, Lacan, Žižek, because we want to give people an accessible and sturdy basis in the discourse. The problem is that Michael Downs is very busy having to work at a wage slave job. And so if you want to help in freeing Mikey, make sure to go to his Patreon at patreon.com/thedangerousbaby and make a donation. Thank you. I would be remiss to close this out without a quick shout out to our patrons and our anonymous donors. Thank you so much for the donations. Already, we've only been around for a month. We already got over $3,000 in donations, and so thank you. And stay tuned for the app, which is on its way. There will be a Theory Underground app. So the current setup is that it is a social media site built around courses, where you can suppose that people who are involved in the discussions have a shared interest in the same or similar texts, and where you can assume in a lot of the discussions that, yeah, people have read the stuff that you're reading, that you're bringing into dialogue. And so, for instance, The Idea of the University by Carl Jaspers, dedicated for him. Slavoj Žižek's For They Know Not What They Do, dedicated for him. And then as people take the course over the years, new people will be coming into that forum. And so if you get in there early, you'll be able to see how the conversation evolves. And as new people add into the conversation, it'll bring back memories and like things that you want to work through, questions that you had with the first time that you read the text. And so I'm really excited for this. The reason I've built this website is because I think that this is what's lacking in so many other spaces, is that ability to return, to be able to communicate after the fact and in a sustained way on a platform that's not attention grabby and annoying like Discord. And so stay tuned, because there is an app on the way. Thank you to our donors. If you want to donate, go to theory-underground.com/support. Thank you.